So this is our basic recipe and the equipment. So like I said, the equipment, if it is that you're reusing pasta jars and stuff, make sure and wash it properly, sterilize it because you don't want anything to cause your vinegar to spoil. So here, this is your list of the equipment. So basically, what you want to do is prepare your herbs. If it is that you're doing dried herbs, I would always recommend crushing it. What this does is that it wakes up the herb in a wet because it has no water in it. So when you crush it, it will start to release the medicinal properties. It would break down the cell wall of that dried herb and prepare it to extract the medicinal properties into whatever menstruum that you're going to use it in. So in this case, you want to add your herbs, add whatever additional things that you want to add to it, and then you want to add your vinegar. Make sure that it's completely cooled. Make sure and put on the wax paper over it. If you're using plastic, you don't necessarily need to, but you want to put it in a cool place. I would recommend initially for the infusion process, if it is that you could use a clear glass, that would be good because you can actually see if there's any bacterial growth. Just keep it in a cool place, cover it in foil, keep it in a cool place in a dark cupboard. Take it out every day, shake it, look at it, put it back. Then when you strain it, then you put it into that glass bottle. So if you ever saw vinegar on the market, like balsamic vinegar or any of those fancy vinegars, you would notice that it is in an amber bottle. And this is to protect it against any light that may pass in. And you want to make sure that the light or sunlight does not break up the medicinal properties and making your preparation useless. Okay, so here we're talking about how do you choose the right herb for your vinegar. So you need to know what function your herb is going to serve. So in this case, this is an example for digestive health, where you would use things like ginger, fennel, peppermint, chamomile. Here, for the immune support, again, I just give examples, but there are other things that may be readily available in your kitchen. I mean, I know we use garlic and thyme, rosemary a lot, so you can use it. So for skincare, there are different things that you can use. Same thing for hair care, and now the respiratory support. Now, respiratory support is very important, especially if you have the flu and you're looking for immune boosting support. You can also clear your lungs with these herbs. I know you can't get eucalyptus plants available in Trinidad, but you can always use the essential oils like afterwards. You could add in some essential oil in whatever it is. Once that essential oil is marketed for oral consumption, because I know some of them is not for oral consumption. It's only for topical applications. So energy and vitality, you can use these, and then culinary enhancement. So if it is that you're using it for dressings, marinades, and for cooking purposes, you have that. So weight, and I will say this for all of my class, I never ever want to tell anybody about weight management. However, this is also something that can be used to control and suppress your appetite, simply because, so cinnamon, I usually recommend it to people who want to regulate their blood sugar, who want to deal with like good circulation, and it helps with your joints and joint pain and muscular pain as well. So cinnamon, if it is that you're using it with the vinegar, is going to reduce your cravings, it's going to suppress your appetite a little bit and allow you to actually absorb what is in your bloodstream. So you don't have that craving to have whatever it is your cravings are. If it is that you're somebody who's trying to regulate your blood sugar. So ginger helps with, like, this is for the If it is that you want to open your appetite, stimulate digestion, if you're a person prone to acid reflux and stuff, ginger is a really good herb to use for it. If it is something that you have, if it is you have nausea a lot, again, ginger. So I mentioned fennel as part of the digestive aid from the coriander, fennel, and cumin mix. Dandelion is really good, except that you have to buy this. This is an imported thing unless you buy the seeds and you have it. Dandelion root. You can also use it as a coffee replacement if it is that you're trying to be caffeine free, and it really helps help your liver with a detox. Okay.
Hi, excuse. Do we get like exact measurements for the apple cider vinegar to the herbs ratio, or do we just do what
So
feels like?
actually, this is based on what jar you're using. So there's like a ratio of 1 part herb to 2 to 3 to 4 parts of your apple cider vinegar. So this is really dependent on your jar. So if it is I'm using a smaller jar, 1 part is going to be different. So actually, let me show you this. So y'all can see my jar, right?
Yes, miss.
Okay, so basically, so this is a pasta sauce jar that I have. So if it is that you're using 1 part, you want to empty your herb and you see how much herb you actually want to use. So say that I wanted to use from the bottom here to here. What I will do is I will actually measure this distance and then say, okay, well, I want my herb to be this, my liquid to be this much. So then I would say, okay, I'm using 1 part herb to 2 parts of apple cider vinegar, right? So that's a very concentrated mix. Or you use less herb and more vinegar if it is that you want a more dilute mix. So really, it's dependent on your jar. So I can just give you the parts ratio. There's also a section on weight versus volume for any tinctures document as to what situation you would want to use weight versus volume. But this is like the folk medicine way that you just eyeball it because nobody has time to pull out a scale and weigh it. And if it is you need to use it by weight, so say this is 2 ounces of glycerin, right? Now if it is I have to use 1/2 ounce of herbs to 2 ounces, if I want a 1:4 ratio, what's going to happen is that 1/2 ounce of a herb in volume is going to be a lot more than what this liquid is of this bottle of that is 4 ounces is going to offer. So that's why we need to use the eyeball method and kind of like say, okay, well, this is 1 part of the herb, then this is 4 part liquids, and then you pour it in. Because sometimes if it is a high volume herb, it wouldn't really work. But if it is something like, so say this is burdock root, it might work because burdock root is very heavy. So you get a low volume and then you just add whatever else. So this actually was a tincture that I was setting up with burdock root, and I would have put my alcohol all the way to the top, leaving a space to shake, of course. So that way I know that the burdock root is actually infusing. So I had done this for my niece because she has really bad eczema and I wanted something that would help her. And yeah, so I had done this small little setup for her. So I'm not sure if you're seeing it because I can't see for some reason I can't see what my video looks like.
We're seeing it, Miss.
Okay, great.
Let's see it.
Good morning. What I want to ask is if so, like that comes like a spoon, like 1 spoon to like 2 spoons of 1 spoon to like 1 cup of oil.
Okay, so in that case, so this is where fractions come in, and you need to know, okay, so if it is that you're doing, say, 1 cup and 1/4 cup, So you would say you use a quarter cup of herb, and then there are 4 quarters in 1 cup. So you want one cup of herb, and you want 1 cup or 4 quarters of your liquid. So in that case, knowing your fraction comes in handy, because you can say, okay, let me weigh my dry herb with this quarter cup measure and my liquid with this 1 cup measure. So that is also a way, because this is called parts. So in baking, if it is that you know your fractions really well, you can actually use it. So parts versus having to actually weigh it or measure it. So that is also, yes, that is also one way that you can use it as well.
Thank you.
Does that answer your question? Does that answer your question?
Yes, miss. What I want to
Okay.
know is that all these notes that you are showing on the screen, would
So
it be able for
right.
us to print?
So yes, it's actually going to be here in the Google Classroom, and you click on it. So for example, we're doing, I think, vinegars right now. So that's over here. You click on vinegars. There's the, sorry. Oh, I move it. Okay. Right. So you click on it. This is the document, and you can print it. You can download it. It's a Word document, but you can download it as a PDF if it is that you want it to print. PDF is like the best form for printing. So yeah, it's available for you to have.
Thank you so much.
No problem. Okay, so the next question is, somebody said something about, the burdock. So burdock is really good for your liver and liver support and detox. If I sell the tinctures, yes, I do sell the tinctures actually. So usually it's like this. So it's the amber colored bottle, and there is a label. I don't usually seal it, simply because I usually do package to order situation. So if somebody wants actually a mixture of different tinctures, I would do it for them instead of just doing one. If it is I'm doing a market, I will do like individual ingredient tinctures. But if it is I'm doing a custom blend for somebody or for personal use, I would mix it up accordingly to different things that I want to do. So y'all can hear me. Somebody said they're not hearing me.
How
I'm hearing you.
exactly do you make the apple cider vinegar? Like what part? Sugar, water, apple?
Okay, so this is your recipe here. Let me just go back. So there's actually a recipe here somewhere that I put it. So you actually get the parts right here. So here, this one does not have exact measurements, because like I said, it really is dependent on your jar. So if it is that so this is my vinegar, but I mean my IPA. But if it is I have this big jar, what I'm going to do is I'm going to decide your volume of herb that you have is going to also determine what amount that you want to use. So if it is that you buy you buy oregano in this small little pack, this is about 5 grams or 10 grams. It's not a lot, right? So you want to put it in a jar that you can gauge the volume in. So this one is an oil from yesterday's class, right? I'm not sure if you can see it, but this is where the little bit of oregano is. I think it was like 5 grams. So what I did was I added the olive oil. So I would say, okay, I measure the distance from the bottom to where the herb ends. And then I say, okay, I want this to be one part of oregano to 4 parts of, but I think it was 3 parts of oil or something. So what I would do is measure the distance and then say, okay, if that's 1 centimeter, what I want to do is from the 1 centimeter mark here, I want to go up 3 centimeters because I want my oil to be 3 parts. And I will make a mark with a marker, and then I'll add my oil, mix it up, and make sure that that volume comes to the mark that I want to do it. So this is really dependent on, so understanding the ratios part is really where the recipe comes in. Because if it is that you want to add like different things, then you would know, okay, well, all of my herbs plus the additional flavors must equal to 1 part of whatever jar that I'm using. So say, for example, if it is I had done this, all of my herbs, flavors, everything come down to here. Now, well, this is IPA. So I did this is a very concentrated menstruum. So in this case, you know, your vinegar is very concentrated if you're using something like 5% white vinegar, or if you're using rice vinegar, whatever your vinegar is, if it's very concentrated, you don't want to use a lot of herbs because your menstruum is already very concentrated. So in this case, I decided that I wanted my medium to be 1, 2, 3, almost 4 times the amount of this volume of herbs. So really understanding that fractions is what's going to be your recipe, and you will be able to adapt it accordingly. So you have to see how much herbs it is that you have. So you can actually make tinctures and all of these things from teas already on the market. So this is a mixture of my Aphrodite tea that I retail. Now I keep it in this plastic pouch for convenience, but usually it's in a glass jar. So if it is that I have this herb mix, I will shake it up really well, measure out how much that I want. So if in this case I want a 1/4 cup, I would take the 1/4 cup measure, take it out, put it into the jar, take my 1 cup measure, fill it with my vinegar, and then pour it into the mix. Mix it well. Now you don't want to use wood, because wood materials is going to introduce its own kind of contamination to your mixture. So you don't want to have anything wooden. Also, you want to use metal very sparingly. So you can use metal, but bear in mind that, you know, the acid from your vinegar is going to corrode the metal. So you don't want to keep stirring like for very long. You just want to make sure that everything gets wet from the vinegar. And then you go ahead and cup it and you store it. Then you strain it, put it in your amber colored jar. Now, when you strain it, now, if you're lazy like me, for personal reasons, I would have like my infusions going for like very long. So this is burdock root tincture. I didn't cover tinctures yet, but I still have the roots in it, even though I have my alcohol. Now, it just means that it's going to have a more concentrated tincture every time I use it. Now, if it is I was selling it for consistency's sake, after the infusion time, I would have strained it, put it in its individual bottles if it is that I want to do individual burdock tinctures. If not, I would put it into well, not this small one, but something big like this, the colored glass jar. And what I would do, okay, how hard is it to get? Okay, so when we talking about tinctures, we were going through the percentage of the alcohol. A color jar, so this one actually, even though this is a nicer olive oil, you can actually get olive oil bottles like this in Moda Live. Can't remember the prices. I think it's like $20. They have different sizes. So small ones like these, you can get from VS Pharmaceuticals with or without the dropper. So they actually sell this glycerin and they sell the plastic with it, but you can get actual droppers with it. Now the issue with the droppers is that it doesn't actually give you like a full dropper full. So you actually would have to know how much 1 ml is. Usually for a tincture, 1 ml a day is your dosage. So you would have to actually use a 1 ml syringe, or learn how much of these you're going to have to pull up to take 1 ml of it. Now, we'll get into tinctures in the tincture section. But basically, if it is that you're using it for commercial purposes and you have your vinegar, you have your oil, what happens is that you want, for consistency's sake, to make sure that each of the bottles that go off, if it is that you're selling it, have the proper concentration. So you want to make sure that you strain it after, say, 4 months. You want to put it in a storage container like this, and then you bottle it out if it is that you having it to sell in the small amounts. Now, alcohol, because of the very high concentration, it tends to evaporate very quickly. So that's why we will talk about it when we get into tinctures. So right now, wind vinegars. So it's the same thing goes. If it is that you want the infusion to go on for very long, so I can't even remember what date this was, but this has been going on for almost a year now. Simply because this is 8% vinegar, and I don't use a lot when I'm cleaning, and I also use IPA and hot water and stuff. So, I don't have to use a lot of this because of how concentrated it is. So, but if it is that somebody wants to do cleaning products and they want to sell it and stuff, you have to strain it. Unless it is you're selling it for the aesthetic purpose, because people like to see pretty things. So some people might actually be drawn to the stuff inside versus the actual cleaning product itself. So so I can touch on the teas a little bit in terms of tinctures and your herbal mix. For example, this is a tea that I have for sleepy time. It's called Let's Count Sheep. I know, okay, so I'm not sure about the essential oils. So
I have one more question about the apple cider vinegar. Mother, is the mother important? Because I have made apple cider vinegar about 20 times and only got the mother once. And how do you take apple cider vinegar, or is it rum?
So the only time the mother is important is if you are propagating the mother. If it is that you not propagating the apple cider vinegar to make more apple cider vinegar, it's not very important. You can actually save your mother, because you can actually use the mother from apple cider vinegar to make your own apple cider vinegar. But the things that it requires means you're gonna have to import some things that we're not gonna have in Trinidad. Same thing for like kombucha and water kefir. Like, we don't readily have this stuff available, because in order to make kombucha, you need to buy a kombucha in the grocery and use that in your kombucha mix. Similarly, for like water kefir, you need to bring in the grains and you can propagate it. The grains never grow like the mother for apple cider vinegar. For water kefir, the grains doesn't really grow. It just remains there at the bottom of it, and you can actually to say your water kefir is at the bottom, the top is really what you're going to feed, and you're going to cap off, and then you just add more sugar and water and you get more water kefir. So it sells really expensive in the grocery, but the process is very easy, very simple. Same thing for the kombucha and stuff. Now, your apple cider vinegar, if it is that you're making a preparation, you don't necessarily need the mother. If you want to put the mother, you can. It's just going to be more vinegar, more bitter, simply because the mother is going to feed on the ingredients that you have there. And you're going to have to compete with the ingredients being fed to the mother to feed to grow, versus you getting the properties in your herbs. I mean, from your herbs into your menstruum. You understand what I mean? Oh, I already explained it properly.
And how do you know if your apple cider vinegar is apple cider vinegar or is it rum?
Your apple cider vinegar.
So how do you know if your apple cider vinegar is apple cider vinegar or is it rum? So how do you determine which one is which one?
Well, as in, if you know this is for sure apple cider vinegar, versus if you buy something that you think is apple cider vinegar but it's not apple cider vinegar.
No, like if you make your own apple cider vinegar, because when I make it, I have apples, sugar, water. So
right.
If I leave a couple of weeks, how do you determine if it's apple cider or
versus alcohol? Okay, so alcohol actually has a different scent. So if it is evaporating really quickly, it might be an alcohol. If it is that you put it on your skin and it evaporates, it has a cooling effect. That's alcohol. If you smell it and it smells like alcohol, it's alcohol. If it smells fermented, because apple cider vinegar has a vinegary taste, so the smell, and it's totally different from the smell of an alcohol. So you can test this on your skin, see how it feels. If it evaporates really quickly, that's an alcohol and not a vinegar. Right. So back to my tea mix. So I would cover this in tinctures, but basically what's happening is that I put LCS. It means Let's Count Sheep, and it's actually a tea mix that I have for sleep. And what I did was I actually took a bit and make a tincture out of it. So that way, if it says that somebody don't really want to drink the tea, or they want something that's fast acting, I can just give them this. Now, Sophia mentioned in the comments that making sure to date and label. So that's what I was going to get to now, is that you want to make sure and date it so you know exactly when you made this. You also, so putting it with marker, I will not recommend it because dust and debris will actually cause the marker to come off, which happens in all of my bottles. Now, putting it with your label. Now, I know the ingredients of Let's Count Sheep, but somebody else might not know what the ingredients are. So if it is that you dabbling with a mix, always write what your ingredients are, especially if it is that in your notebook, you have a certain recipe, but for this specific mix, you want to swap it or you want to edit something, make sure that you notice in your notebook. You also make sure and write it on your bottle, whatever it is, what ingredients you use, what's the conditions, or anything that might be a change. So that way you don't forget. And sometimes you think, oh, I will not forget, but trust me, you will. It's human, it's just human nature. Right. So any more questions about the vinegar? Okay, so Rani, I don't know about the quality or the grades of the essential oils. You can call them and ask them all the questions that you want. Based on their answer, you can probably determine if they are true or not. Okay, so fire cider vinegar. So I'm sorry, fire ciders. So fire ciders are different from your vinegars in terms of the purpose and the herbs that you're using for your fire cider. A fire cider was created by Rosemary Gladstone. She's considered the grandmother of herbal medicine in North America. She has a lot of publications. You can actually get her stuff. You can buy her books. So basically, she came up with the idea from traditional Chinese medicine and Ayurveda in creating something that is nutrient-dense immune support for the winter months or the cold months, something that's very fiery, that is very spicy, that moves, that generates circulation, and basically using very bitter, spicy, pungent ingredients. So here you can go through it. We have a lot of, if you're okay with going past 11, because this is only the second one and we have like so many things to cover. So y'all can go through for the benefits, but I want to get into the how to make it. This is also a very expensive thing to make simply because this solely uses apple cider vinegar. You can't use any other vinegar for this, solely apple cider vinegar. So here is our basic recipe. Again, when we get bumped up, y'all will just log back in, right? So garlic, ginger, horseradish. Now, if you don't have horseradish, again, this is the Caribbean. We're going to have to use what we have. So we have something called morai. It's a white, it looks like a white carrot with or daikon, whatever you know it as. You can get it in the market. You can use it in this recipe. Hot peppers. You can use all the peppers that you want to your availability. The only time that you won't use a lot of pepper is if it is that this is for a kid or somebody who can't have a lot of pepper, then you try not to use a lot of pepper. I think you can get away with the pimento, unless it's like a spicy pimento pepper, then you don't want to use it. Black pepper is not very spicy in terms of like, if it is that it can't have the spiciness. So black pepper can be used in this as well. So turmeric, lemon, rosemary, and the cinnamon. Now, after the infusion is done, you want to strain it, and then you're going to add your sweetener or honey afterwards. So here, you would notice that it have chopped, grated, minced, crushed, and these are to create something called increased surface area. So what it does, it makes the stuff smaller so that the apple cider vinegar has more room to extract medicinal properties from, and then you can get a better infusion happening. So y'all can read through the method in your own timing. Right. So I just want to go through well, the Trini. So here you can actually add customizations to it. So depending on what you want, you're going to add in the different things. So if you want more citrus, if you want more herbs, you want more spicy, fiery things, if you want anti-inflammatory things like your ginger and turmeric, you go ahead and you just add what it is that you need to add. Okay, so this one is, I tried to edit it to be like a Trinidad and Tobago inspired fire cider. So here you would see that we have ginger available here, turmeric. So you want to use the root, not the powder. I'll get into the powders when I do the honey elixir. This is why I talk about the morai, pimento pepper. You can add your scotch pepper, bird pepper. This is also known as Thai chili peppers. You can add any of the peppercorns. As I think you can get Sichuan peppercorn from Sincere's, black peppercorns. Now, I don't really recommend powder, but if it is that you can't crush it, the seeds, in this case, you can get away with the powder only because it's going straight into the mixture. You can use bitter melon, so Karaili. You're not only limited to Karaili, you can actually use moringa leaves. You could use anything that's very bitter, neem leaves, anything that is bitter and pungent, because that's exactly what you want for this mixture. So shadow benny, we know it, everybody uses it. You want to put some in there. You can add the broadleaf thyme. This is really good for this recipe as well because it has a bunch of herbal properties that's really good for overall health as well. And then your apple cider vinegar. You want to make, yeah.
I think tamarind leaves would work well in this as well.
Okay, that's something that y'all can add in as well. I don't really know the research, so I'm just taking your word for it. But you basically, this is a recipe of convenience. It's supposed to be what is readily available based on the season. Because the infusion time is very long, you want to prep this months in advance. So you take into consideration what you have available, what you have. So if it is that you're using dried ingredients that are not seasonal, if it is that is something that's available year round versus if it is fresh. Now there's a section in each document that talks about using fresh or dried herbs for this type of preparation, and you determine which one is best. So in this case, if it is that you prepping something for the colder months, so from October to February tends to be very cold in Trinidad. Yes, we don't experience what is called a traditional winter. However, we do get a drop in temperatures. Also, it means that your immune system is going to be a bit shaky. When spring comes around, people get the flu early on in the months. So okay, you're prepping for the future, and you're taking into consideration what it is that you want, what you have available, what you need to get. Yeah. So don't feel constricted by this recipe. This is just a guideline. So again, this is similar to the vinegar, where you put what you need to put, and then you put the amount of apple cider vinegar that you want to put. So in this case, because you're just shaking it up and putting it in the cupboard, the amount of herbs that you use is not very limited. So for example, this jar, if it is that you decide to fill it 3/4 away with herb, this ingredient listing, that's fine because of how it's minced and crushed and grated. What's going to happen is that the apple cider vinegar is going to filter through. So the only limitation that you have in terms of for the fire cider is going to be the amount of apple cider vinegar that you have. So if it is that you know you have like a small jar, go for a small bottle, you go for a smaller bottle and you prep it, and that will be your limitation. If it is that you're using a bigger bottle, you use more ingredients and you get it. That is
we eat the onions and everything after the period is over, like after it's
so what you want to do it as a post thing, you want to add in things.
Like if you want to be able to eat it and drink the liquid at the same time.
So because of the mixture itself, more than likely because of the high vinegar content, what's going to happen is that the onions are going to break up. So it's not going to come out, it's going to be mushy. Now, if it is that you want to reuse the herbs, by all means you can. I know people could use it in like vegetable stock when they're using it. You want to make a vegetable broth, you use all your scraps, your remains, tea, anything that you have, you put it, you boil it, you strain it, you compost the herbs, and then you have this vegetable broth that you can bottle and store in your fridge, put it in ice cubes, freeze it, and you have vegetable broth to use in your cooking when they say to use vegetable broth. Or if you want to replace water with the vegetable broth, you can, and you get all that properties back in it. So for the eating aspect of it, it might not be feasible, but you can use it in something else. And what I would recommend is vegetable broth, or if you're using it in like a beef broth or a chicken broth where you want to add these things to it for flavor, you can. I see somebody was raising. Ishita was raising your hand just now. Do you have a question?
Hi, Miss. Hi, good morning, everyone. Is Ishaita?
Ishita, sorry.
That's okay. I wanted to know if you can put like a substitute for the Karaili, if you can put mugwort in it, one, and if it is the jars, if it is, you have to leave like a space for the fermentation of the herbs or anything like that, or you can fill it up.
So because you want to inspect your equipment, your jar, I would always say leave some space. Leave some space simply because you don't know what's gonna happen if it actually starts to ferment and then you need a little gas. It's not supposed to ferment, but remember, if spoilage does happen, again, it's not supposed to happen, but this is the Caribbean, and if you're using it, if you're leaving it out in your cupboard, it might get a little warm in your kitchen or whatever the case is, and temperatures might raise and something might happen. So yes, you can actually use the mugwort. So if it is that you go through this document, you will see that there's a section called Herbal Fire Cider over here, where you actually add in herbs that you want to, and it serves the function that you wanted to serve for this fire cider. Right.
Thank you, Miss.
No problem.
Excuse me, we have mugwort here?
You can get it. So like I got mine from Chan's Trading, well, Fortune Shop. It's Artemisia. A lot of spiritual shops have